Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Joanna Ho. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. China pledges to be an anchor for world peace, which it says is vital for economic growth. Locally, a taxi driver is killed in a fiery three-vehicle collision in Tung Chung. And in the Philippines, a blaze on a ferry in the south kills at least 31 people. Premier Li Qiang says China's growth will boost the global economic recovery, adding that Beijing will act as an anchor for world peace. His remarks came at the Boao Forum, where leaders and investors are discussing Asia's outlook. Chloe Feng reports.
In his keynote speech at the annual Boao Forum for Asia on the southern island of Hainan, Premier Li Qiang urged all countries to firmly safeguard the hard-won peaceful environment. He said this is a prerequisite for development, particularly as uncertainties have become the new normal. Li pledged that China will act as an anchor in safeguarding world peace, and its growth will inject more certainties into the global economic recovery.
To achieve greater success, chaos and conflicts must not happen in Asia. Otherwise, the future of Asia would be lost.
We will not pursue such modernization through war, colonization, or plunder, but peace and development to bring our entire 1.4 billion plus people into a modern society. This will create powerful impetus for economic growth in Asia and beyond.
Li said China's economic data this month will be stronger than in January and February, indicating a bullish outlook and long-term stability. While reiterating China's commitment to improve its business environment, the premier again slammed unilateral sanctions and the new Cold War mentality. The Boao meeting, which is modeled on the Davos Forum, attracted leaders and foreign investors from over 50 countries, including Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and his Malaysian counterpart Anwar Ibrahim. Also present was International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, who said China and India will contribute to half of this year's global economic growth. Other participants included Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee, who met the premier earlier and will return to the city tomorrow. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
Also at the Boao Forum, Singapore's Prime Minister said one of the biggest global fears is the icy relationship between China and the United States.
Big powers have a heavy responsibility to maintain stable and workable relations with one another, because any clash between them will have grievous consequences for themselves and the world. And yet, the US and China are at odds over many intractable issues, including trade and investments, supply chains, cybersecurity, emerging and critical technologies, as well as freedom of navigation.
In Hong Kong, a 39-year-old driver was killed when his taxi was engulfed in flames in a three-vehicle pileup in Tung Chung early this morning. The taxi smashed into the back of a lorry, which had stopped after hitting another lorry in front. The accident happened at around 4 a.m. when a taxi burst into flames after crashing into the back of a lorry on the North Lantau Highway. Firefighters rushed to the scene soon after being alerted, but it was too late for the taxi driver, who was trapped inside his vehicle when it got stuck beneath the lorry. He was certified dead after firefighters removed his body from the taxi, which was wrecked and blackened by smoke. The lorry driver was injured and sent to hospital. His vehicle was also destroyed in the fire. Another taxi driver who witnessed the accident said he was lucky to have escaped. He heard explosions before and after the fire broke out. Dashcam footage released online showed the lorry stopping on the airport-bound fast lane after crashing into another lorry near the Citygate Mall. The taxi was unable to stop in time and rammed into the second lorry. All airport-bound lanes were closed temporarily. Some bus routes were diverted, and there was traffic congestion before the lanes gradually reopened after 10:30 a.m. A man has been killed in a blaze that broke out in a tenement building in Taiwan. He reportedly tried to put out the fire in his flat, but was trapped when the flames spread rapidly. Macy Mock reports.
Medics rushed a man to an ambulance following a fire in a flat in Taipo early this morning. The 35-year-old man, who suffered burns to his face, hands, and legs, was sent to hospital where he was pronounced dead. 7 people, aged 4 to 47, were admitted to hospital after inhaling smoke. Some were carried on stretchers, while one man walked to the ambulance wearing an oxygen mask. The fire broke out inside a flat on the second floor of a tenement building on Tung Chung Square at around 3 a.m. and spread to 2 neighboring flats. Firefighters took 15 minutes to extinguish the blaze. Around 30 residents were evacuated from the building. The damage was visible when they broke. The flat where the fire broke out was charred, with the windows damaged. An initial investigation pointed to an electrical short circuit as the cause. Reports said the man who died had urged his girlfriend to escape while he tried to put out the blaze after an extension unit in the living room caught fire. But he was trapped in the bathroom when flames engulfed the flats. The 7 residents taken to hospital remain admitted, with 3 in critical condition and 2, including a 4-year-old boy, in serious condition. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Overseas, a 6-month-old baby is among at least 31 people killed when fire engulfed an inter-island ferry in the southern Philippines. The victims either drowned after jumping into the sea or were killed in the blaze. Sachin Katfi reports.
The MV Lady Mary Joy 3 was carrying 250 passengers and crew when it caught fire near the island of Basilan just before midnight last night. Many on board jumped into the water and were rescued by the Coast Guard and Navy with help from local fishermen. The damaged ferry was towed ashore. It had left Zamboanga City for the town of Holo in Sulu province when flames engulfed the vessel at a time when most passengers were asleep. The governor of Basilan said the search of the burnt vessel and the surrounding sea is continuing as some passengers were not listed on the ferry's manifest. 23 of those rescued were admitted to hospital. Sachin Katpi, HKIBC.
7 police officers in the U.S. city of Los Angeles have been charged 3 years after the death of a motorist they stopped. While being restrained, Edward Bronstein repeatedly shouted, "I can't breathe."
These officers had a legal duty to Mr. Bronstein. He was in their custody. We believe that they failed their duty, and their failure was criminally negligent, causing his death.
Bronstein was pulled over on suspicion of driving while under the influence of alcohol. He was pinned to the ground as officers tried to take a blood sample. The 38-year-old died minutes after his last scream. 7 California Highway Patrol officers and a nurse have been charged with involuntary manslaughter. Rival groups of demonstrators have greeted Taiwan's leader on her arrival in New York en route to Central America. As she arrived at the hotel, supporters of Tsai Ing-wen waved U.S. and Taiwanese flags. Across the street, another group made clear that it opposes independence for Taiwan. Tsai will stay in New York for 2 days before heading to Guatemala and Belize. On her return, she will stop over in Los Angeles, where she is expected to meet U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Beijing has warned of retaliatory measures if the meeting goes ahead. Back in Hong Kong, all travel agencies serving mainland tour groups will have to declare their charges and details of restaurant reservations. This comes after lawmakers and district councillors continued to raise concerns about complaints from residents affected by a surge in visitors. DAB Chairwoman Starry Lee warned that streets may become more crowded during the Labor Day Golden Week in May. She criticized the super low-cost budget tours, which depend on shopping commissions, saying tourists will have a bad impression of Hong Kong. The Travel Industry Authority expressed concern about cheap tours, but said it hasn't approved any application for arranged shopping from travel agencies in the past week. 11 men have been arrested on suspicion of laundering almost $120 million. 2 core members of the Crossborder syndicate allegedly used debit cards to buy expensive items. Joanna Ho reports.
Acting on a tip-off, police and their mainland counterparts launched an operation codenamed Grand Wide. They found a cross-border crime syndicate had allegedly used more than 90 dummy accounts on the mainland to collect $119 million from phone scams in the past 2 months. The core members used debit cards in Hong Kong to buy expensive items, including smartphones, gold, and watches.
意圖避開銀行體系裏面嘅資金追查。
Police said by purchasing goods that were easily transferable, the suspects were able to launder the proceeds from crime. 9 men, including 2 suspected core members, were arrested on Tuesday and charged with conspiracy to defraud and money laundering. Police also arrested 2 employees of a shop which allegedly sold the syndicate 11 watches worth $3 million. More than $1.7 million in cash, gold, watches, and debit cards were seized. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Further signs of recovery in the mainland economy spiced up Hong Kong stocks today. Premier Li Qiang's assurance to avert systemic financial risks pushed the Hang Seng Index 0.6% higher. Short video app platform Kuaishou Technology jumped 5.6% after its losses narrowed in the 4th quarter. PetroChina zoomed 7.8% as the state-owned oil giant recorded a 62% surge in net profit for last year. The biggest gainer was Zhongtian Construction, rocketing 126% on its trading debut. Alibaba rose 2.5%, continuing a rally that began when it announced a major overhaul. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 116 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent was up 20 cents, Alibaba up $2.35. Kuaishou up $3.15, BYD Company up $7.20. To the forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, euros at 8.54, pounds at 9.69, and Australian dollar at 5.25. Over to the UK market, FTSE 100 is up 66 points. Weather now. Tomorrow will be cloudy with showers and low visibility in some areas. Temperatures will range between 20 and 22 degrees, staying cloudy but warmer over the weekend. That's our main news for Thursday night. Join us for more news at 11. A reminder that tomorrow's main news is at 9 p.m. I'm Joanna Ho. Good night.